artist roundtables. Today, we are very grateful to have our first live episode joined by some awesome artists from the festival. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what it was like and what it continues to be like making art and making performance, all of that great stuff in the wake of COVID. It's going to be some really interesting conversations tonight, and I'm really happy to be joined by all these amazing people. So before we get started, first off, I should say my name, just to reintroduce myself. I'm Garrett Ryan. I am with Artist Relations at Fringe North for this season. And let's just go around and introduce ourselves, let's just start with names and the show you are coming with for the festival this year. We'll get a little bit more into who we are as artists in a little bit, but we'll just start with a brief introduction. So feel free to just jump in. We're unstructured here.
I guess I'll start. Hi, I'm Matthew Cavafraro. I'm in the inevitable Frankie Green.
I'm Len, and I have a digital presentation called 3 Pairs of Intimate Shorts. It was basically 3 short plays about love, I guess, relationships.
I'm David. My partner Brooke and I were making a short film called Glow Ink, which is going to be so like glow in the dark stop animation on top of live footage.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm one of the digital technical people on Fringe North's team.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. This is going to be a great group, and we're going to have some interesting chats. So I think first and foremost, I'm interested in hearing what perspective everyone's coming with. We just heard very briefly in your introductions what content you're bringing to Fringe North for this season, but I just want to talk a little bit about who each of you are as artists or as workers within the arts industry, just to gain a little bit more perspective on where we're all coming from. So I can start and offer that what I'm doing right now with Artist Relations. I very happily do a lot of work with. Right now I'm working with Fringe North, but with other arts organizations behind the scenes, making sure that art is happening, especially in the wake of the pandemic. Working with theaters, working with individual artists, that sort of thing. And then also I work as a writer and director, where I'm currently directing Matthew, who's joining us in a show that will be in Fringe North. So I've got the behind the scenes perspective from the producing side, but also from the perspective of a theater maker as well. I guess since I brought you up, Matthew, why don't you talk a little bit about who you are as an artist? What brings you to this festival? What kind of art do you like to partake in?
Okay. Well, that just threw me on the spot. Damn. So I am currently a student at York University, going into my 4th year in the theater program there, and it's technically my 3rd year of devised theater. Devised theater is basically, we make weird things. It doesn't matter the style of theater, we just create a show from the ground up and we see if it works or not. And that's where I kind of been for the past few years. I've done a few shows, like smaller festivals at York, one outside of York last year, and that was all entirely online. And this was my first Fringe, essentially. It is. I don't know why I said that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm more of a student trying to get into the industry. where we're like with device theater because we're all over the place. We do scripting, directing, designing, acting. Like we do all of it all in that class and see what happens. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think that's a really great perspective to be coming from too. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like being a student in the arts during the pandemic, because I think that's also an important perspective to touch on. I'm also a student. I'm finishing off my grad degree, also at York in theater. And then Kayla, I believe you are also a student, or you just graduated. So why don't you go next and chat a little bit?
Yeah, so I just graduated from the production program at Toronto Metropolitan, as it's now called, if I can remember to call it that. I focus on lighting and projections and had the fun switch to online learning in my last like half year sort of thing. So lots of learning going on there. The whole tech area also kind of shifted in interesting ways. So that's where I'm coming from.
Great. Yeah, I'm very interested to hear from the tech perspective, because I've done, like I said, I do some of the behind the scenes stuff, but more on the administration side. I am very interested to hear that sort of transition working like with the tech, because that's a whole different ballpark doing digital theater rather than behind a lighting board. What about you, Len? Where are you coming from in the arts?
I have a mobile theater company that started 15 years ago, which is two part. We do programs, camps for youth and children through the summer and then during the year. And then on the other half is doing production. And most of those are basically my plays. It was sort of a way to get my plays done. My primary interest as an artist is playwriting. And so when you do writing, you got to get it on the stage. So you become a director, you become a producer, you become a lighting person, you name it, you become it. So yeah, I just took on all those kinds of things, and I've been doing shows for a bunch of years. I'm in the Toronto Fringe next week with one of my new shows that I wrote during COVID, not about COVID, but during COVID. So that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely relate to the perspective. I did my bachelor's focusing in playwriting, and that's the same kind of perspective I came into it with. Like, oh, I guess I need to start a company to produce my work. I guess I need to direct it now. I guess I need to do all this stuff. Yeah, it's fun. I like doing the kind of independent theater scene where you take on basically every job. It's chaotic but really fun.
Yeah, I think every theater program should give you an opportunity to do every little bit, and then you can actually be independent. But
yeah, absolutely. York did a good job at that for sure.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Everyone has to take sort of like an introductory level work and doing like practical work behind the scenes, like tech. You get assigned working on a crew. Everyone has to do acting. Everyone has to do what else is there? Oh, like sort of the academic kind of historical stuff in sort of the kind of foundational year, which I think is great. I don't know how Toronto Met did that, Kayla. Was it similar?
It was similar. They never did the hands-on part, but we had a lot of like mixed classes in the producing and the production class, which no one liked it, but I think it was important. So
yeah, I think the one no one likes at York was the more academic one. Everyone doesn't like being forced to read all the plays. That was what I did like. That's my bread and butter. That's why I'm a grad student in theater, but I understand why people don't like having to read all the classics. I like it though. I'll jump over to Dave as well before I get too sidetracked with the other stuff. But Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're coming from as an artist?
Dave isn't me.
Yeah.
I'm the only Dave here because often there's other Daves. Well, my name is David. For the most part, I part of COVID, a musician, touring musician for upwards of a decade with my partner Brooke. We were doing a lot of what we do is tour by canoe. So we'll go down the Mississippi River, play shows along the Mississippi River, and we'll canoe to our destinations. Or so we've been touring all over North America doing that. Right, sometimes with vehicle too, obviously, but as much as we can. We're bringing the project to the Humber River this summer. Then COVID hit, and we were out in BC, so lockdown, and we just got into more like it slowed us down, got us into recording. And that I mean, we'd recorded before, but like really starting to take it into our own hands. And since then, I've been trying to expand into we did a film, To Know the Water, for Fringe last year, and that went fairly well. And this year we're doing a short film. So I'd still call myself a rookie like filmmaker, but the more and more I wrap my head around it and edit, I got a shitty computer. It's the rendering slow, all that, but we're getting there. So yeah, essentially a musician, but at this point hustling anywhere I can to just keep it going, and then we're working on the side.
Yeah,
wherever I can. Mm-hmm.
for sure. That's touring by canoe is one of the coolest things I've heard.
Holy cow, that's
Awesome
amazing.
Yeah.
way to do it.
Yeah, that's been kind of our forte up until now. So yeah, we did the Muskoka River years ago, Mississippi like 5 times, Sacramento River, LA River. It started, if we're from anywhere, we're from Winnipeg, but we live out in Ontario now. So that project started on the Assiniboine River.
Nice.
Yeah, but so if COVID's given us anything, it's we've had to stay somewhere. We've always been moving. So in a way, it told me to slow down, and it's really artistically has given us some gifts to nurture broader, bigger ideas. And I'm in our music, and now I'm actually I never thought I would edit videos. You always try to musician like, oh, he's a good filmmaker, let's work with him. But now I'm like, I can do this myself. It's not that crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. I have a lot of my family's from out near Dauphin, so I'm.
Oh yeah, I know Dauphin.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm interested a little bit. Well, the sort of the next question I wanted to ask then was related to how COVID has sort of impacted the specific industry. So I'm curious from your perspective as a musician, what is the music industry looked like in the past few years, especially as like you said, an actively touring musician. Like you touched it upon it a little bit, but I'm just curious to hear a little bit more, because that's so it's a completely different world for me. I've never worked in music. It's one of those things that's music and theater are like we're on a very similar path, but
and we sometimes we cross into each other.
For sure.
And we've done some scoring for plays and some TV and stuff too. But it for a while it essentially shut it down, like completely, like no live shows, like during the heart of COVID, like when you could barely, grocery stores are open and that kind of stuff. And I had no arguments with that. So I actually, that's a good question, because that immediately tuned me into like streaming, and that got me a little more tech savvy. And we pulled off some streaming shows. We did a live stream for Folk Alliance down in Kansas, so we got involved with the festival streaming. So we kept it alive, and I think what it did was the first thing I made sure not to do was to start feeling sorry for myself. A lot of artists do that, like woe is me stuff, and for good reason. We deserve more and all that, but so does everybody. And so I just really was Brooke and I were just really digging into like, why don't we get into like what can we give? Because we're constantly looking, and we're broke musicians and stuff and that still, but still, what can we give? And because I feel like it's that time now on the planet for humanity. What can you give? What can we share?
it's kind of crunch time. So I'm trying to reflect, like, obviously I want money for survival purposes, but it's kind of like that. I want to dig deep, and emote and allow others to emote, and make art that allows people to feel and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much
Mhm.
for sharing that. I was surprised. I've found it, like, to be completely transparent, at the beginning of when theater was going online, I was having difficulty at first sort of having that same connection, like, with the screen that I would have in, like, sitting in the audience. Like, there's
Oh,
a
definitely.
kind of an energy there. One of the things I found with music, and one of the earliest things I did, is my fiance and I watched a live stream of, I don't know if you're familiar with the Celtic Colors Festival.
Nope.
It happens out in Cape Breton, and it's a great, they do like Celtic kind of fiddle music, very
Yeah.
folk heavy. And I remember one of the first things we did is watch a live stream of one of the artists from the Celtic Colors Festival. And a lot of people that were watching were kind of, like, a lot of times with Celtic music, you'll do like the kind of kitchen table kind of playing, or some, you'll take out your own instrument and play along. And I found watching the music and kind of being able to sort of almost participate, even though you're separated by the screen. I had so much more of a connection with the music than I did right away with the theater. I've kind of adapted to the theater, but there was something really special about the music that I think, like, it actually lent itself quite well to those live streaming opportunities.
Okay, yeah.
From my perspective, it's not going to be the same as, being out in the audience in, like, at a concert, but I've actually quite enjoyed a lot of the live streaming stuff that has come music wise. Theater is just, it's kind of its own unique challenge, and I think maybe I'm more hypercritical of putting the theater digitally because I work in the theater industry, and I'm very, like, it's almost like a self-conscious thing. The music, I can just, like, I'm not, I have no connection to music. I can just put it on and enjoy it. In theater, it's kind of like, oh, I'm stressing about how I'm gonna, be working digitally. But anyway,
Yeah, and we all went through the give or take music.
Yeah.
We as in musicians too. Like it was just kind of a bite in the bullet thing. Like, do you really? And to answer your question further, I think really it separated a lot of artists who really just want to keep going. Who like really, and apparently that's me, because I've gotten no reason to otherwise. So I think it is currently, and we'll see the residual effects of a lot of amazing things with art. I think it'll be it's like a cultural shift kind of thing, and sometimes cultural shifts don't happen on a dime, so we'll I think we'll residually see COVID and just whatever's happening in the world. We'll residually see how art reacts to that, as it always does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely curious to, we'll chat about that a little bit further on, because I'm very curious to see what are our thoughts, kind of, quote unquote, coming out of the pandemic, whatever that means. But I want to turn it over to you, Len, from the theater perspective, because I think you were sort of put in a very similar position to me, because I was, before the pandemic, I was pretty consistently at least doing like Fringe festivals, other venues, producing independent theater with my company. And obviously the pandemic really threw a wrench in that. So I was definitely very affected in the theater world, as were a lot of people. So I'm interested if you could talk a little bit from that perspective. Like, what did it look like from you in the theater industry, especially as like a more of an independent artist?
Yeah, it's like everything else, everything comes to a dead halt. I was about to go into the London Fringe Festival. I had my cast together, ready to go, and that of course came to a halt. And and everybody, of course, thought this is going to be short-lived. We'll just, keep putting stuff off. So they were putting it off till later. And I said, well, I'm going to do it independently. So I planned on September. That passed. And then I came to a point where I said, I've got these plays I want to do something with. I didn't want to do a typical Zoom kind of thing. So, I'll just back up. The other things that came to a halt where I had a playwriting group. We couldn't meet anymore. I had sent stuff in to be published, see if, would be accepted. All the publishers stopped reading stuff. They just, so it stacked up. So everything just stopped or whatever. But I had, I liked what Dave said was, it was almost like a filter. It said, those who are going to keep on doing what they love to do are going to do it no matter what, in one way or another. The others will sort of filter out and sort of fall by the wayside. And I just thought, I want to get this done. I want to do something. And so that's when I created this in my garage. I did a theater, black box theater, and we recorded all of these short plays that I had. And so we did a set, and we had lighting and all the stuff as if it was like a theater, only we recorded it and then put it on for stream on demand kind of thing. So and then in the end, that's where these entries for Fringe North have come from, is a collection of each of those kind of thing. All those are recorded in the garage in a in the black box kind of thing. So we built a set and everything like that. As the COVID continued on, I signed up for a playwriting course that was done in New York City. So it was people from all over North America in the course. Out of that, there's a bunch of us that wanted to do a playwriting group. So we stayed and created a playwriting group, and from all over. And at the same time, I was writing a new play. So I just kept writing this new work I'm going to do in the Fringe and in Toronto Fringe, and just kept plowing ahead with whatever. And then waiting for that moment when there was just an opening kind of thing. When we did the garage theater, of course, there was those times when it's complete lockdown, and then there was sort of where you're allowed a bubble. So anytime we had allowed a bubble, our cast of 3 that did all the shows was our bubble kind of thing. So that's how we sort of got by with that. So you just look for ways to make it happen kind of thing. So a window opened up for a very mini Fringe at London, and I happened to get pulled in the lottery for it. And so we put on my new play there. That's going to be in the Toronto Fringe, and as well as the Newmarket Play Festival. So I was just fortunate that I kept doing stuff, writing, and then when the window opened up early, I was ready to jump on it kind of thing. So
yeah, for sure. That's super interesting. You made me think of something as you were describing the turning a garage into a black box is really cool. And it reminds me that first summer of the lockdown, I did a similar thing. We for one of the Fringe festivals, we basically just turned our whole apartment into kind of a digital film set, film theater type thing, and the labels kind of merged at that point. But I'm wondering what you think about. I feel like as independent, fringy type of creators, we were almost more well equipped going into the pandemic than some other people who are more reliant on some of the big budget type of stuff. We've had to be crafty doing theater for I have for my whole career, because I've never had big budgets or anything to put on shows. I've always had to be very crafty. So the pandemic was just sort of another obstacle that I had to kind of be crafty and figure out how to deal with.
Yeah, I think that was the benefit of past saying that, I want to write, and now I have to direct, now I have to produce, now I have to do the technical. When you've had a little bit of that, you're not a professional by any means. You're actually, you threw this wrench in the whole thing. I can still do it all kind of thing. You can go after a little bit of funding that will help, make it affordable kind of thing, and pay some actors to do, So I was able to at least, I bought a camera with some funding because I didn't have a camera. I don't know what to do with that camera. I'm just like, this was a completely new learning curve for me. I know how to use a camera, but it was recording and all that. So that was it. That was sort of a thing that I had to quickly figure out that, the new technology of the new video camera stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember that sort of transition of realizing I had to become a filmmaker without completely out of my wheelhouse, but now I have to like do multiple takes of things and splice them together. It was totally different.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now. I guess let's hop over to Matthew. From your perspective in the university, and I believe you participated in one of the festivals that we put on. Was it the 5290 festival? Were you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
was that one.
that was a festival that was sort of conceived out of the playwriting stream. We did it independently for the university, but a lot of people that were involved in playwriting at York put it on and did sort of a digital fringe style festival there. So I'm curious, just what did it look like from your perspective doing theater in a university setting and like learning how to do theater and having to transition into the digital, and then maybe talk a little bit about what it was like doing that kind of festival, that very collaborative, figuring things out together style festival.
So in terms of figuring things out together, that's the heart and soul of DT. It's getting thrown into just head first into like this concept you have no idea that is about, and then just figuring out, workshopping, coming up with ideas and seeing how to get the show's thing. As for the layout, this was it. It was basically these damn boxes, and then just us trying to figure out how to put on a whole show. And we're like, well, this sucks. For the most part, all of our assignments, like, because I'm going to go on the assignment bit, because going in, the pandemics had started at the end of my first year. So March. So like that was weird. I think all of our production courses had just gotten completely shut down. Like we were essentially done with production. Our acting was still going, and we had to figure out how because the way York does is you have to audition for various streams, and we had to figure out how that worked. So as we were going into it, basically everything was on fire. I'm like, oh, this is fine. As you do. So going into that, the acting was just basically you're on a screen, memorize your lines as you did. Sometimes people did, sometimes people just reading off the screen. You couldn't tell. They said they could, but I don't think so. So that was end of first year. Devised theater was odd, because as you go in, like, specialize at York, you get put into these little class groups almost, and they kind of become like your family for the next 3 years. Second year is a blur, mainly because it was always this, and like I really don't consider like that those connections and those things start to form until we kind of got into this grace period where we could start seeing everyone again in our third year, because that's when York, at least, and the restrictions started to lighten up, so we could start seeing each other start seeing each other again in person, and then we can really start like doing what we were there for. But it was just weird because all of second year, it was the boxes. My favorite part of everything is all of us collectively agreeing on an idea, being like, yes, this is awesome, and then all of us going, damn it, it doesn't work on Zoom, and then go back into the collective process and reworking the whole idea, which was frustrating but enlightening. I can say my entire class, fantastic sound designers, because that's all we could do. That is all we could do half the time. So that was second year. Going into third year is when we started really like all right, we're gonna start like collaborating, putting together what we think, what we've learned in our first year, which it's not our first year DT. Second year, it's weird. You know what I mean. Start putting that into practice in like an actual physical setting rather than the digital setting, which was nice. It was a nice change of, oh look, there's I can do what I want now, and I don't have to worry about the box, as I'm going to refer to this as, which was cool. As for the festival, the 5290 festival, I was in 3 different shows for that one.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna get all of them, and then I did. I was like, oh no. All of them different styles. For me at least, I don't understand how that happened. Just like, for the most part, everyone was like, we're gonna film and then just do that. I was in a show called Descent. That one was essentially a short film where my in-person bit where I was a bartender, and I went to like full on Ottawa for that, and we shot my scene, and there was that. But I was also another character who was a father, and you don't really see him. So that was all voice acting, which was kind of cool. So Descent is one of the ones where like, oh, I don't have to worry about like the box, because I was doing a completely different medium at the time, that being film, somewhat voice acting work. Death of Daisies, I had again another kind of short film ish, mainly voice acting, and then Mirth Island, which was somewhat this, but also again more short film. I was, a lot of it was more just making films and being like, this is theater, which had again brought its problems, because like everyone in these shows were all across Ontario. So like the only cast I think I saw in person was Descent for that gathering in Ottawa. Everything else was like, all right, what does your camera setup look like? Where's your camera situated? And then like I have to like maneuver the laptop, and like my camera's roughly here, as like my arm is contorting into like a thing I didn't think it could contort to. And then we're like, a little bit lower. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
Here's good. And they're like, yeah, should be good. And then that's where the shot would be, which was interesting. And then like for Frankie, it's just nice to be back in a rehearsal setting and a rehearsal.
Yeah, no, we're actually, yeah.
Where I don't have to contort, but the camera's here, guys, I swear.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. So I have a question for both you and Kayla. But I wanted to first say I definitely know what you mean on those kind of weird makeshift setups. One of the shows that I directed for that festival was essentially like a classic radio play. So we all became expert audio engineers. We had never done it before, and just like shoving people into their closets and finding the best microphone we could get to them, and hoping that sounded okay. So it's a lot of makeshift theater I've found for the last few years, for sure. But that's exciting though. I like having to kind of problem solve and figure that stuff out. But my question, I'm gonna ask this actually to Kayla, but I'm gonna go back to you, Matthew, because I'm curious to hear what your answer is as well, because you've actually spent the majority of your schooling during the pandemic, which is an interesting perspective as well. But I had someone say to me when I was an assistant director on a show for the university in my final year, which is my Zoom year. And they said to me that we shouldn't be thinking about being in this sort of Zoom university setting as a negative thing, because I mean there are obviously a lot of negatives, but we should look at it from the perspective of we're going to be the first cohort to essentially be trained in doing this kind of new medium of theater, and this like we're the first people that are graduating that have learned how to make this kind of digital theater, which is I think it's here to stay, at least to an extent. Even if we move back into live, I think digital is going to remain. But we can also touch on that a little bit as well. Yeah, Kayla, what is your perspective on that? Do you think you being put in that situation, you gained kind of a new skill set as well that you're able to bring into the industry now?
Yeah, well, like I do a lot of tech in theater, so that wasn't new, but like I never did any sort of streaming. I only sort of did some video editing, and that kind of became my whole job. And there was a lot of like, normally the process is the artist says, I want to do this, and you kind of have an idea of how the equipment works, so you can say, okay, you can do that, or we need to find a way to make that work. This time it was, I want to do this. I don't know if we can do that. Let me try it out and see if we can, or if we can't, how do we make it work? So a lot of it was the same, but a lot of it was very different. And it brought a new skill set, but it also, because we weren't coming into it with very many expectations, like none of us had experience with film, so we didn't have all the like history of this is what film should look like. So you could shape it in new ways without any of the like preconceived notions. So from that sense, it was a really cool space to like step into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Do you have any thoughts on that, Matthew?
News the whole, oh, this is a great idea, I don't know if we can do it, hits all too well, because I'm like, dang it. Yeah, that was the big thing going into it, as well as like just it was weird because DT is already stepping out of your comfort zone, because we're already looking at styles of theater we're not familiar with, because we're used to, here's the script, productions being done by somebody else, you just have to learn about like your lines or whatever you're doing, like you don't have to worry about every single aspect of a show happening all at once, while you're trying to make sure the script isn't falling to pieces and it makes sense of what you're trying to say, make sure your designs are matching up with everything, and make sure your performances are still like as strong as like they can be. On top of that, we were dealing with this new form that no one knows how to do, and so second year was a lot of figuring out, okay, this is what devised theater is, this is what our reality is, what? And that was just kind of the majority of it. I feel like we didn't really get a sense of what DT was until our third year, until when we started actually going in, because that's when we're like, all right, this is because at that point everyone like who is trained in this field can go back to somewhat how they were doing it before. So that's when we got our taste of it. Second year was more like, you're gonna learn this entire new style that no one knows how to do. Good luck.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I my next question that I'm gonna put out there, and whoever wants to jump into it, feel free, because I'm curious for everyone's perspective on this. But I sort of alluded to the idea that I think that the digital theater is here to stay. Especially, I can talk from the Fringe North perspective. We've, after doing an all digital festival last season, we realized how many advantages there are into having that digital component. And going forward, that's something that we are going to try to always have as a part of our festival. And there's a lot of great reasons for that. One of them being the accessibility of digital theater. So I'm curious, what are people's thoughts on how this sort of transition into the digital, now that we're kind of coming out of it? Hopefully we're actually coming out of it, not an up before a down, but let's fingers crossed. What do we think? How has the landscape been changed, and are we ready to just kind of throw all this stuff away now that we don't have any like use for it, or is this now a part of our process, a part of our world, this digital realm? If anyone has any thoughts on that, I'm super curious.
I do, but I'm gonna wait to see if anyone else has. I just talked a lot, so I'm just making sure no one else can say anything. No one else wants to say anything before I jump in.
Well, I mean, it already did exist, essentially through television.
Right.
I'm not saying we're like television, but ironically, television's kind of dying.
Yeah.
Like the cable television's slowly dying, the theaters are slowly dying. You know, they'll live to whatever extent. By dying, I just mean they've been greatly reduced. And so it's with COVID or not, it's already been kind of happening where you can hyper focus in on I like this kind of entertainment, this kind of thing. So it's definitely here to stay, for a variety of reasons. And the template, we were already doing it. Like, I mean, like as a musician, you play live, but if you could play the Super Bowl and everyone's watching you know, that's a great success. Or even if a play, what would be a good example of I don't know what's like the crown jewel of plays that's related on television or movie media.
On television, well, I think of
What relates?
Some of these successful like West End productions, they'll get filmed and streamed, especially like they'll do the theater circuits, like
Okay.
like movie theaters, like things like recently, like Angels in America was all over theaters.
Okay.
So yeah, something like that where it has a wide reach beyond its like physical location.
So like for, you know, since the 50s, we've as artists, you're essentially aspiring to be archived and recorded and exported, you know. So you know, in effect, we have the ability now in our homes to archive and export ourselves, which is difficult, but we can do it individually and ourselves now. Is one thought. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to add onto that or anything?
There was a whole lot of things that I learned out of we did the garage theater thing, and that was totally 100% digital kind of thing. I discovered in the end for us, I thought initially it doesn't work for the marketing part, because you've got theater because it's theater, and you've got movies because they're movies, or TV. Doing a combination just didn't seem sellable in a way. But I mean, we got quite a bunch of people who watched them. One of the things that I discovered, though, having sent it last year to the Fringe North, was that it can actually work, because it did a lot better than I expected to. And one of the, there was a whole bunch of things that I learned out of the whole thing. One was we were putting them on stream on demand at your convenience, which you think would be the best idea ever. You could sit down and watch it anytime you want. Well, human nature says I need a time that says I have to watch it at. And I think Fringe North scheduled them and had better success doing that, because that forces you to buy a ticket, forces you to go to it, just like theater does, right? So letting people choose when they want to watch it is not a good idea, because they'll never watch it, that kind of thing. So that was sort of a eye opener for me when we were doing that. I think that's where we lost some audience viewers by just you watch it when you want kind of thing. So yeah, but it definitely has potential with the right leadership, and I think Fringe North proved to me that it has huge potential.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's very interesting. Matthew, you said you had something as well.
I do. I was gonna say, accessibility wise, it saved me a lot of, hey guys, I'm in this show, but none of you can watch it, because I was expecting no one to see Frank, no one I know to see Frankie, because the two showings live are not in Toronto, and everyone's like, so we just can't watch the show, and I was like, no. And then you're like, oh, the Fringe North is online. I went, wonderful, you guys can go see the show. Which has been like a huge, which is again bringing that accessibility to people who wanted to come see but couldn't. But I've also played around among the many some of the shows I've done during the pandemic. It's interesting seeing what styles of theater really resonated with people, especially online during live showings of because again, some were filmed, some were live on Zoom. One of the ones that was really, really well received that was live on Zoom was an interactive show where we had it was structured like a video game, and I'm not going to go into the video game jargon because I'm going to lose almost everybody, because I'm gonna bring up Unity, which is a game software, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. Basically they modeled like a level. We had like people go through like a maze. They would like dictate which goes like where people like where the character can go. We had little levels that they can play and puzzles. For that I was constantly talking to the audience, and that is like one of the only roles I did where like I didn't have a script. They're like, say whatever you want, just don't be too mean. And I went, okay. Which was a note I got a lot. And it's weird because I feel like if you can involve like I feel like there's a nice medium where like it can be live, it can be streamed. If you're going for pure immersive theater, then yeah, it can like film it, throw it up there. But I was like, there is this weird happy medium where like if it's interactive, both online and in person can have this weird say in what goes on, and it creates this really unique theater experience that doesn't normally you don't typically get to see.
Yeah, I agree. So rather than the digital medium being sort of a way to like make theater when we can't live, it's kind of ushering in a new type of theater.
Yeah.
I agree. I believe I saw the production that you are talking about. I also saw another a few kind of like VR sort of interactive style things that I think existed but weren't very big. I think they were sort of kind of inevitably coming, this digital era. Like COVID allowed for some of this more experimental type of work to come in and be showcased to people, and I hope it stays around because I've seen some really interesting, unique pieces. I don't know if you had anything to add to that conversation, Kayla.
Well, like Matthew brought up the video game thing. I think there was a show done at Toronto Metropolitan, which was like a similar thing where it was pre-recorded, but you got to like choose your own adventure through it. And that was really cool. And there was a lot of like really experimental, how do we have the audience interact with it? One of the shows they did like a Twitch stream on Twitch, which was really cool. So because of the like,
was that the show Nina directed?
Potentially.
I believe I saw that show.
Down the Rabbit Hole or something.
Yeah. And David Yee wrote it. Yeah. They're great.
Yeah.
David and Nina are awesome. Yeah, that was really cool. That was a cool show.
So it brought a lot of this really experimental stuff that I think has the potential, if you like go further and as it kind of matures, could almost become its own genre of storytelling, which is not quite theater, not quite film either. So I think it's an interesting thing, and I think it can go in really interesting directions.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I have you all here, I'm noticing the time. We've got just over around 10 minutes left. But while I have all you people here, all you fantastic creators and artists, I just want to open the floor if anyone has any questions for each other, kind of on this topic or tangentially related to this topic. We've got a few very interesting, diverse perspectives. So if anyone has any questions for each other, this floor is yours.
You're doing a combination of both digital and live, right? This year. I just wonder has there been talk about how that will, if you think that will be, your hope is it'll be a success, but what will be the outcome of doing a mix of that? It just changes the dynamics quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think what Matthew said, so the way we're doing it is basically just doing, it's our digital version is going to be pre-filmed. It won't be live, but we're recording it here in Toronto, in a studio, and it will be tailored slightly differently to look good and appear good being filmed. My hope is basically what Matthew said, like, because our 2 other locations are that we're touring this summer are very out of, like, they're not accessible. We're going to PEI, and then we're going to North Bay. So both of them are a hard ask, especially like for people from Toronto to be like, you want to come for the evening to see this show? And if we were doing live in Sault Ste. Marie, it'd be the same thing. Like, it's very difficult to get there. So I think in terms of that sort of travel accessibility, we say you don't even have to leave your house now. And especially I think it works out timing wise because Sault Fringe is our final stop. So hopefully we'll have a successful run up to there, and then we can say, if you missed it, now it's up, available to be streamed. So it's the first time we've done this sort of combination thing. But it reminds me of like a movie in the theaters, and then now it's available to rent on your TV.
Right.
Yeah. It's really funny because technically the Sue performance is our first performance, but no one sees it till after we're done.
Yeah, that is interesting.
You'll have it on VHS, right? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You can listen to it audio on Discman.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. Was it? So someone I think started asking another question. I don't know.
It was Dave, wasn't it?
David, yeah.
Yeah, well, I got a couple things to throw down. One, whoever's in Sault Ste. Marie, we're coming up there July 28th to perform for the Dryer Fire series.
Cool.
At the Big Cabin. So I don't know that location, but that's where we're going to play because Nicole, who used to be involved with Sue.
Yeah, Nicole's still on our team.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, they're putting that show on, so we're coming up for that. But for anyone in Toronto, I'm actually still looking. So we're doing a mini canoe tour on the Humber River on Sunday, August 7th, and I've got the Oculus. Speaking of live venues that are still safe COVID wise, I got the Oculus Pavilion for the day in South Humber Park. And I think y'all would be really into it because I don't know if you know it. It was built in 1959. It was built like after like UFOs, and it has this crazy natural reverb and vibrato in it. And I've got like 4 folk bands, myself included. But I would love if anyone had something else to offer, some theater. It's just it's a free day. There's gonna be like you can sell stuff if you want, but there's like no money involved. I'm paying for a bit of insurance and that. I'm just kind of trying to landmark the canoe tour thing in Toronto, but really it's just a day, and I've got a lot of space left for other performing. No, there's gonna be no electricity or anything, but the Oculus Pavilion is super cool. So if anyone's down for that, it's from 1 till 5 on August 7th, and I got room if there's any performers out there.
Cool. Yeah.
In the GTA.
That's awesome.
As they say. Yeah.
In the 6. That's my Toronto lingo that I've adopted in the last few years of living.
What's that?
The 6. That's the.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Is it what is it, Matthew? You're a Toronto. You're from here.
It's the name Drake gave the city. So anyone that refers to it as the 6, because our thing is 416. So and taking the last 6 of that of our 3 our area code digits. I don't know what the 416 is, but whatever. Yeah,
like in a phone number, right? Like 705.
Yeah. Toronto's is 416. So or it's 416 or 647. Either way, the 6 is present in both. So he calls us the 6.
I would not have guessed that's where that came from. That's
it comes from Drake.
There you go.
And that, yeah.
There you go. Does anyone else have any questions for each other? Anything like that?
I'm really bad with questions.
Did you say you have a question?
No, I'm very bad with questions.
Oh, that's fine. Len, I am curious. What's your Fringe show in Toronto? What's it called? I'm here. I'd love to try to make it. Please,
that'd be cool.
Please plug yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's 107 If you go on the web, it's www.107.buzz. You can learn all about it, but it's of course one act play about two estranged cousins that find a strange object in the woods, and then the FBI shows up, and it's crazy. It's based on 107 is basically STS 107. It was the Challenge Columbia, the space shuttle that crashed in 2003, right. And they find an object from it, kind of thing. And it's a comedy, crazy, kind of strange show. And it actually got picked up by the Newmarket International One Act Festival. They picked it out of 81 entries, and it'll be one of the shows that's put on there in September as well. So
awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. That's great. Yeah. So but two of you got stuff going on in the GTA. That's awesome. We'll maybe we'll see if we can get our cast Matthew out to some of these. That'd be awesome.
I think they'd be down. I'm down.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Cool.
That's great. Yeah.
Got some cool shows going on at the Fringe by the looks of it. So very cool.
I know. Yeah, I'm excited that the festival's happening for sure. That's great. I haven't had time to look. Toronto Fringe is overwhelming. If what is great about the Soo, we have a very strong core group of artists. You're not overwhelmed with shows to read through and everything. Soo, you can very feasibly see all the shows, and please do. That's awesome. It'd be great.
I'd love to get a live show up there. It'd be great. Do something that size. It'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great place. Have you been to the Soo?
I had my sister used to live there. So I've been there, and I know a little bit about it, but not lived there. So
great. And you, David, you said you're coming up for the festival Nicole's involved with.
Nicole runs. It's more of a concert series they put on. It's their summer series, the Dryer Fire series.
Yeah.
So I think they've been putting on a show every month or every 2 weeks, and we're the July 28th.
Awesome.
And we've worked with Nicole before for shows over the years and built a good relationship.
Cool.
And we've always, Sue's always been really good to us on tour, because coming from Winnipeg, if you're not going through the States and you're going through Ontario, anything you can make happen, because it's about 24 hours from Winnipeg to Toronto. Yeah. So anything you can make. Yeah. So Sue has always been a good stop for us.
When I was a kid, I used to live in one of the very small towns on the giant stretch between Thunder Bay and the Soo. So I know a long stretch of nothing. It must be hard as a touring artist. I don't know if I think I would probably fly if I was going out to Winnipeg to tour a show. It's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
All I remember about that. All I remember about that stretch is it used to be 90. I don't know if it still is 90 kilometers an hour. And it's just painful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's and you can take for the first, when we moved from BC out here, we always took the 17 before, but we were carrying a trailer, so we didn't want to take all the hills through the lakes. We took the 11 over to Timmins.
Yeah.
And that was something. I don't know has anyone else ever done the 11?
Yes, not to that distance, but I've been on it. Yeah, that's a cool route for sure.
Yeah, it's got there's a 240 kilometer stretch where there's nothing. So it's very, it's becoming industrialized, but it's there's not a lot going on there. But it turns out it's only 38 kilometers more than the. So if obviously the lake drive is awesome, but if you wanted to change it up,
that's Northern Ontario. People,
only in Canada, right?
Yeah,
only 38 kilometers.
Yeah, for sure. People don't. I'm going to wrap up in a second, just because I'm noticing the time. But yeah, people don't. Yep. Remember talking to people last time I was in Ireland. 'Cause Ireland's tiny compared to Canada. Talking to people that have visited Ontario, just blown away by taking a train across Ontario. Just it's been days. How am I still here? Province. You can drive from one side of Ireland to the other in a few hours.
You're just in the province. You haven't even left.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up here then. So just a few things that people should keep on their radar. First of all, I want to say, I think down in the video description, also on our website, which you can see on my name tag here, we have information about Tip the Fringe. If you have any money that you would be very graciously willing to donate to our festival, anyone watching, please consider doing that. Tip the Fringe is a fantastic way to support us, and supporting us means being able to support fantastic artists like the ones that we have here tonight and all of our other amazing artists. It means keeping our festival running, keeping all of our great programming and initiatives going and growing year by year. So just wanted to put that out there if anyone's interested. Like I said, again, on our website, it'll be in this video description. As well, the Fringe North Festival is from August 18th to the 21st this season. So if you are able to, please come join us in person. It's going to be a really fun time. We're back live. But if you were not able to make it, like we were talking about, that's the advantage to some of the digital content. Please, we have a whole selection of fantastic digital shows this season as well. So if you're not able to make it up to the Sioux, check out some of our digital content. If you can make it up to the Sioux, still check out our digital content, but also come live. You're gonna have a great time. I also wanted to mention that we have a fun new initiative that will be starting on Monday. That is the Fringe North Fledgling. The Fringe North Fledgling is a large bird that will be touring around Sault Ste. Marie, and we're going to be posting clues to find the Fringe North Fledgling on our social media. It's going to be a really fun time, a really good way of doing some community engagement. Yeah, so if you're in the Sioux, keep your eyes peeled for the Fringe North Fledgling. The fun starts brewing on Monday. And I think that is that's all that I had to share. Also what I wanted to mention for the Fringe North Fledgling is you can win tickets, and we're going to have some great prize stuff at the end of the Fringe North Fledgling initiative. So definitely get involved. It's going to be a great time. So before we wrap up for the night, I just want to once again thank all of our amazing artists and staff that are here making this live stream happen. We are back every Thursday live. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of interesting different topics. We're going to have a whole bunch of our festival artists on here. And before we wrap up, if anyone has anything they'd like to share, please feel free to do that before we hop off. If you want to share your artist socials, anywhere we can find you. We already talked a little bit about some projects coming up, but please, floor is all of yours.
You can find pretty much everything we got at www.twintwa.com, TWINTWA.com.
Right.
Not much for me. Just come see the inevitable Frankie Green, both online at Sioux or at PEI or North Bay. That's literally all. That's literally it.
Cool.
And we already talked about some stuff you've got coming up, Len. I don't know if you have any social media people should check out, or if that's
I'm good. Everything I've got going on is at onstage.ca. So there you go. But it's great hanging out with y'all, and thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, the three of you. Well, I guess the four of you, but Kayla is part of our staff. But, thank you all of you for being our first artist for this season. We've had a few live streams just with some festival staff talking about some stuff, but this has been great. Been a great time to chat a little bit about making art, and yeah, I'm so happy that you were able to join us today. So yeah, I guess we're good to wrap up. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will be back next Thursday at 6:30 for the Fringe North Artist Roundtables.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.